Are you ready for the Mike Ryan exclusive?
Are you ready, Dan?
The Bombazo.
Are you ready for the Bombazo exclusivo? I've been teasing this. This is a big one. Nothing will ever be the same for this show ever again. Damas. Y caballeros. I've got a Bombazo exclusivo.
Exclusiva.
Chris Whittingham. On Saturday. Will be.
What?
The television voice of Inter Miami football.
Whoa! Oh!
Exclusiva.
Oh, you did not build that up enough.
Fancy lad! Fancy lad! 28 years old, a prodigy!
This is according to sources close to the situation.
Exclusiva.
Not only
It's so loud.
Favorite part.
Not only will fans locally be treated to Chris Whittingham on television calling Inter Miami football, they're playing better. He will be alongside the greatest soccer color commentator of our generation,
No.
Ray Hudson.
Oh my God! Oh my God! What an exclusiva!
I'm not done yet.
Exclusiva.
You have more?
I have more.
Oh my God.
Fans of the Dan Le Batard Show nationwide will be able to enjoy it nationally on ESPN Plus.
Oh. Oh my God.
And that
Oh.
is a Mike Ryan exclusive.
Holy
Man.
Doesn't make any sense. The cat doesn't make
Yeah, I
any sense.
don't understand what's going on there.
Negotiated against yourself
with you
there.
not doing it.
I feel like we had reached a deal term of you would do this Monday with the hope that we would forget on Monday, which was a good probability with us.
For the record, and to avoid any future Pepper meetings, I think this is a bad idea.
So do I. So do I.
Now you can do it, and I don't have to be there.
You're
I
on the
said-
record. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
What is this? A court? Let it be noted.
Trying to
Put
save
it-
myself an hour
It's
next
like,
Put it
week.
on
it's
record.
like a
Yeah.
deposition.
Like a
Put
chomp
that
thing.
on the record.
All right, here we
Okay,
go.
it's on the record.
Cheers,
Billy's got
everybody.
no liability issues here.
How'd he play?
Cheers.
Oh, man.
You can't say.
I mean, you didn't even
Cheers.
bite into it.
It's the saddest I've ever been.
What kind of timing is that?
Wow.
Chris,
You
you
barely
said
taste the peel. I'm
Really?
telling you, have a bite, Roy.
No.
I'm telling you. Much better than I thought. You barely taste the peel.
Really?
Yep.
Mm.
Just tastes like a banana, you know.
Chris, you said before you'd taken the bite.
No, once I felt the texture, once I realized how easily it ripped.
Wasn't
I
that bad,
It's like
right.
I'm telling you, I was
Yeah.
expecting it to be like just like this like weird thing in my mouth.
The was kind of like relief. Like, okay.
Yeah, I
That's
can
terrible.
do it. It was like
Yeah.
I can do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I'll do another bite. I'll do it.
Mm.
That'll be my last bite.
Okay, but you fulfilled. Look at
Oh,
old
no.
liability over there
Oh, no.
laughing in the corner. He wanted it noted on the record that he doesn't approve, but then you can hear his giggling laughter echoing through the eternity.
Put that on the record.
I just don't want to be in any meetings about this banana.
Definitely better than I expected.
I've got my top 5. Jessica has like a top 14 that I'm interested in hearing about.
Top 14.
I hate so many people, Dan.
Jeez.
The top
Wow.
14 people in sports that she hates.
Mm.
I've got a top 5 teams that I hate. But let's please give our fancy lad some love, because this is the culmination of 10 years of working in soccer broadcasting, falling asleep while calling Liga MX by himself in a broom closet. He is filling in on the TV broadcast for Inter Miami alongside, in my opinion, the greatest soccer color commentator of our generation. It's massive. And for those listening right now that are not in South Florida, they can watch along on ESPN Plus because they take the home feed broadcast, and Inter Miami are at home against Toronto FC. Massive. That's why the fancy lad is not here, because he is such a pro. He is preparing for this broadcast.
All right.
Please don't make him say anything on it.
Ray Hudson. Ray Hudson is what happened with Ray Hudson? How long was his retirement? He's the greatest.
Well, he retired from being sports because they had Messi, they had La Liga, and he was the voice that you would associate with that. And when it went to ESPN, he didn't go with ESPN, and he decided to retire from that. But he was always a part of the Inter Miami broadcast because he used to coach the Miami Fusion. He was a part of the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. He has a huge soccer history down here locally. Unfortunately, he announced that retirement days before Messi decided to sign with PSG and go to be in sports. So maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. But you could always hear Ray Hudson calling MLS action. And this week, Saturday, you can hear him calling it alongside our fancy lad.
That's so exciting for Whittingham. He's so great at it. But I do wonder if he'll be nervous because you're working against a legend that you grew up listening to. It'd be like wanting to be a baseball play-by-play guy your entire life, and your first game's with Tommy Hutton.
Whittingham is so good at this that we learned of him when he was still in college doing the college broadcast. We were playing some of them because we were wondering, how is someone this young? It was a prodigy situation. How is someone this young, this good at the ins and outs of play-by-play? And he is excellent at it, but Stugotz is totally right. What a hard first assignment where you're working next to the guy that if I had to choose for Whittingham who he'd want to work next to, it's this guy. Is it not? Is it not Ray Hudson would be his first pick all time?
But it's also got to be the most intimidating because he's held in such high regard. But maybe it's one of those things that this is easy. Especially with Fernando Fiore, which is a bit of a challenge.
Let Ray go?
You just let Ray go.
Yeah.
You know to lay out for Ray Hudson.
This is very exciting. So we can all watch on ESPN Plus, but you have to support ESPN and get ESPN Plus in order to support our show and Whittingham.
I need Whittingham's username and password.
Yeah, but you're local, so you'll just watch on, I think this one's on My 33. They sometimes go between CBS. Check your local listings.
Show references, first broadcast, or he's fired.
Did he not do something like this for Sarah Spain? Did Sarah Spain not have on her That's What She Said podcast where she dropped a couple of what happened? What
He called the Red Stars game, and what happened was I didn't watch the game, so I don't know.
Right.
He had to do something. Fans were voting on it. I don't know which one he used, but there were some good options in there.
I'd say
we have all the info on this, Dan.
Yeah.
I did not watch the game either.
None of us watched NWSL, Chicago Red Stars, this specific instance.
Let's
but
add some more pressure to the broadcast.
no, let the kid.
Come on, man.
I was just
First
wondering.
broadcast.
That's
Let the
all.
kid have
Yeah.
one. Wait, did I just do the Stugotz thing of calling
Yeah.
him a kid?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
And he was going to be
It's
a kid of my
endearing,
own.
though, Mike. You see what I'm saying?
You really boxed yourself in
I
on that one,
apologize.
didn't you?
Yeah, I apologize. It wasn't
We
just-
actually had this conversation with Whitty either on a local hour, like a mystery crate, like months ago. Like, what are you gonna do when Dan asks you when you're broadcasting these games to start doing show lines? And he's like, I really hope that doesn't happen because I don't want to and I don't know what to say.
You're going to ask him, aren't you?
Witty scared is not something we've seen around the broadcasts.
I've been bouncing off the idea of having a signature call. All the greats have a signature call, and goal is obviously done. But in MLS, it's a weird league for many reasons, but I'll stack their goals up against anybody in the world. They have phenomenal goals. And
What's the one I sent you the other day where it was a corner kick and a guy just sent a missile launcher, just grabbed the corner kick and kicked it into the net at 1,000,000 miles per hour?
Wait a second. Are you saying their goals are better than anyone else's goals?
Yeah, they take more ambitious chances, and they somehow go in. In 1 week of MLS, you'll see better goals than you'll see in an entire Premier League season. It's incredible. It's random. I don't get it. I don't know if it's ball manipulation. I don't know. I don't care if maybe it's analytics. And
I think you identified it. It's taking chances, more chances.
Maybe
right?
the analytics in the Premier League, they rely more heavily on that and just get closer, get closer, get closer. But they have these things that have been known now as bangers, like banger goals in MLS.
Bombazos.
Well, that's Spanish. Remember, MLS is soccer. Soccer. Right? So I told him, you should yell banger anytime there's a banger goal. No one's got that. But it would be really weird coming from Chris Whittingham. Banger!
It would be great.
It would sound like bang her. So you got to be careful with that.
Exactly.
Banger!
Dangerous game.
It's really a disaster waiting to happen. You suggesting the goal call that makes it sound like Whittingham is yelling bang her.
Yeah. And he'd be fighting himself to say, and mash, like at the end, because he identifies as a 55-year-old Englishman.
Right. Yeah.
I love Whittingham bringing his polish to this broadcast. And I don't know what to do with the fact that he's not going to be able to summon the goal call enthusiasm next to Ray Hudson. How is he going to be able to reach that level of enthusiasm when he's a kid, as Mike Ryan calls him?
It's Ray's call, Dan. I think that's what we're trying to tell you. You just, you describe it a bit and then let Ray be Ray. That's what you got to do. Just let Ray Hudson be Ray Hudson. Whitty knows that.
Unless it's a banger.
Right.
Then it's your moment, Whitty.
Yes.
But yeah, when it's Ray Hudson, you lay out for magisterial moments like this, courtesy of BN Sports.
Gomes looking for the overlap. Alba inside. It's Messi! Again, the medicine man arrives and sinks his flaming spear into the hearts of Real Madrid. Astonishing from Messi. Beautiful counter-attack. All the pieces falling into place. Messi, born in the crossfire hurricane, and he is jumping Jack Flash. Amazing football. The defenders are left with bees flying around him. And he cared not about the yellow card. Messi, you could drop a tarantula into his shorts and he'll still be cool.
That's what you do, Dan.
I
That's how you
doubt
do
that.
it.
I'm gonna call bullshit on that. You put a tarantula in Messi's pants and he's not gonna be cool.
Put it on
Agreed.
it on the poll, Guillermo. Do you call bullshit on a tarantula down Messi's pants would still make him cool?
That was Phil Shane on the play-by-play.
High
there,
standard.
Dan. Yeah, which is, I'm telling you, Phil Shane is in my top 5 update anchors of all time on radio. He is fantastic. It is him and Bob Usler, WFAN,
Kevin
perhaps
Hunter?
1, 2, maybe Minko, the Mink Man. I'll have to put together my top 5 list of all-time radio update anchors. He fell asleep in the parking lot once, Phil Shane did, but he recovered quickly. He had a quick heater. He put it out as he was walking into the building. He grabbed a piece of paper that was printing off the wire. He ran into the studio and delivered the greatest 2 minutes of sports update that I have ever heard in my entire life. He is a pro who fell asleep.
I heard Stugotz's headphones through a soundproof glass.
You heard that get in Stugotz's ear and
I got him loud
lift
today.
him to puppet life. You saw it, but I saw it, but you heard it back there in a soundproof room.
That's right.
The crackle that brought Stugotz to life so he could tell the Phil Shane story after I just got yelled at for telling Neil Rogers stories. I just got that's a thing that happened. And since we're out here betraying everyone today, because I'm going to have to betray Stephen A. and Max again on this, I'm also going to betray Whittingham here. And we love him and he's a prodigy. And I'd like to figure out how to do like a second screen watch party around what he's doing on Saturday. But what's he going to do about that pimple that was on his face earlier this week? Because it's the biggest thing I've ever seen.
Why would you do that
It's the
to
biggest
him?
thing I've ever seen. It's the biggest pimple I've ever seen.
No,
Goodness
Oh,
gracious.
that is a poor kid.
They have makeup for that.
This is such a betrayal.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I need to step out.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Number 5, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
No one mentioned that thing on his face all week. None of you said anything about it. It looked like there was a basketball on the left side of his face.
Zittingham.
We're not assholes.
Oh, no. No.
Zitty.
That's That's really messed up. That's really messed up. That's messed up.
God damn, man. Why?
Is he going to wear an eye patch over the left side of his face?
Guys, that's messed up.
Is he going to get rid of it before Saturday?
Stop it. Number 4.
Is this body shaming?
Yes, Mexico.
You guys didn't mention that the entire you were in a
No, who does that?
Like Chris said,
We
we're
just
not
waited
assholes.
till he left, and then we mentioned it.
Ugh.
I got to add Christine Lacey.
Number 3, Tottenham Hotspur. Number 2, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Who just shouted Zitzberg? I heard Zitzberg is who just shouted that. I heard it in someone else's headset. Was Stugotz too slow?
You heard it too quickly.
I heard it in your headset. It's not in my headset. Zitzberg would have been perfect there. Zitty.
When you win a big game and you're walking out and like the chanting. Oh.
Chris, the story that Billy just told, I think a lot of people who don't have any link to this being a formative childhood moment for him 17 years ago to see a team win a championship. And it's, the last time the Marlins felt any good to him. They've scarred his entire adulthood. They've honest to God, they've wiped their ass with the last 17 years of Billy's life. But he fell in love with this team once upon a time, and he was telling you the story. And Chris, you loved the story because you were a kid at the same time. But I'm sure many people were listening to that and being like, man, that is the dorkiest thing I have ever heard. But many people,
I love it.
People will connect through their own teams and their own experiences. My guess is that Mike could tell a cheese ball corn story of leaving an Orange Bowl or something.
Yeah, I can.
Chanting something like with
Let's go Canes. It's great to be a Miami
Hurricane is great to be a Miami Hurricane.
Oh my
Walking
God.
down the
It's been so
You do it
long.
with a
Rotunda.
swagger, right?
Yeah.
You do it with a swagger.
We got some Canes over here.
Oh no.
We got some Canes over here.
Whoosh, whoosh.
After we beat the Gators After we beat the Gators a few years ago, I cooked Gator, and I was like offering it to Gators fans as they walked out.
That's what you do.
That's what you do. Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Do you cook Gator and hand it to people on the way out? Is that what you do?
I think, the Champions League was really cool for Chelsea, but in terms of like relatability, as an adult, the only time, as like a grown man adult, I'm not talking early 20s, the only time I felt anything like the energy pulsating from the Orange Bowl was actually at Hard Rock Stadium when we destroyed Notre Dame. That was the craziest. Dan, you weren't there in person for that game. That's when you knew all we need is a really good team to make this place kind of feel like
What is
Orange
the
Bowl.
bet that I lost to Golick thinking?
I lost the bet, Dan.
I was thinking that Miami had no chance to win that game because I was saying the Notre Dame offensive line that year was the best thing I had seen across college sports, Jessica. And then I lose that bet because of your football team. How annoying is it going to be, Mike and Jessica going back and forth this year on programs with a past that nobody wants to hear about anymore around here?
And on top of that, you got Saturdays covered. But on Sundays with Steelers Browns, you don't even know how much I hate that football team. You don't know.
I don't think about you at all.
God damn.
It's the greatest suffering in Steelers history to have had their last season ended by the
Oh,
Cleveland
thank you
Browns.
for reminding her in the audience, because I'm pretty sure you thought about me after Wild Card Weekend.
I thought, this season is a wash. There was COVID. There was a pandemic. The Steelers had their entire schedule screwed over by the Ravens in week 12. And so none of it really counted after
You were 12 and
that.
0, right? You were 12 and 0.
11-0.
Mike, did we get the excuse machine from ESPN when we were wrestling all of the old-timey sounds? Because Jessica was just making a whole bunch of excuses for why it is. It was excuse after excuse for why the
She was
Steelers
cranking it up.
had their season ended. But I don't think Jessica's ever heard the excuse machine.
COVID, Dan. Pfizer.
So many. Mike, you hate this pivot over to the excuse machine, me asking you to go through the computer in 2007?
Especially when I don't think we've ever had like a true excuse machine.
Mike, is that the team you hate most in sports? The Steelers? Is that it? Like you hate? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
Steelers. No, Gators I really hate the Gators.
Right.
Chris cooked gator. Where did you do this, Chris? Like, how did this work? The cooked gator situation.
I had to go to Delaware Chicken Farm to get obscure meat, and I went there and I did a batch before. I was doing it on the way in, on the way out, if I'm being honest. But afterwards, once we won, I was just cooking it and just being an asshole, just like offering it to people with gator, and some people ate it. Tastes like chicken.
But you're looking for Gator fans.
Yeah.
Of course,
It's
right.
just to be able to hold the plate. I didn't actually need Gator. It's really just the idea of like.
Was,
Gator,
was anyone
Want some
else
gator?
doing
Yeah.
this?
No.
Because Stugotz says that's what you do, and I think like you're the only person doing. You went to do it the least Florida way possible, which is you went to a deli of some sort.
Well,
and
like some obscure meat place.
put it on the poll, Guillermo. Do you trust the obscure meat place?
When you walk out of a stadium, an away stadium, and your team just lost, especially if it's in a really horrible fashion, that feeling is one of the worst feelings in the world. And I remember in 2014, Notre Dame lost to Pitt at Heinz Field, and Notre Dame was favorited to win. And I walked out of that Heinz Field feeling so dejected. And all of my family went to Pitt, and I'm obviously a Steelers fan. So walking out and getting taunted by Pitt fans, I was like, you guys, like, I'm a Steelers fan. Like, we're on the same team here. Like, be nice. Come on.
Listen,
terrible.
Going to road games is a dangerous game, and some advice for future road games. You dress in a way that's neutral, and then you start siding, pretending that you're a fan of the home
You're
team.
a terrible fan.
That's what you have to
Well,
do.
not just a terrible fan. You shouldn't be telling anybody how to dress.
I love going to road games, but it almost never works out for me. And I never learn from my mistakes. I went to that LSU game where we just got destroyed in Dallas, and people were tearing apart my oversized foam cowboy hat. And
But that's on you, Mike. You're going to a road game. You know you're not
Oh,
winning.
Guess what?
I mean,
In the span of 7 days, I'm watching my team play Alabama football and on the road at Kansas City. I've got no shot at winning either of those games, but it's fun.
Mike and I respectively went to Game 4 of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Oh.
Panthers Lightning. That was that was
one.
not fun.
No.
That particular one was not fun.
Which, by the way, leads me to another top 5, Dan. Top 5 teams I hate the most.
yes.
All right, before you do that, though, can you please put it on the poll, Guillermo at Le Batard Show? Do you hate when someone screws with your oversized foam cowboy hat at Le Batard Show? Stephen A. is calling me right now.
Oh,
My
no.
phone is
Oh,
ringing.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Did we didn't even post the
No,
the logo
I
out
know.
yet.
But he heard it.
But you
How
had
does
the
he know?
Catholic
How,
guilt?
Because he
how
knows
does he
Stephen
know
A.
this already? How does he know already? We haven't even put it out yet.
you
It's
text
just
him?
something we were talking about.
You have Catholic guilt. Did you text him?
Did
I
you?
may have done something bad.
Preemptive text. Did you do it?
I may have done
Oh,
that.
man. That's why. I mean,
This is a hell of your own
man,
design, Le
what are you
Batard.
doing?
You guys cornered me is what you did. Something is going to get aggregated on me, and I want him to hear it from me. I don't want him to read about it. I want to tell him. I have that relationship with him. I want to tell him
used
what's
to.
coming his way.
Right.
You used to have that relationship. That has got to be a terrifying feeling. Talking shit about Stephen A. Smith and then seeing your phone ring before it even gets out there.
I mean-
Stephen A. Smith sell.
How soon before it gets out there? Because Dan might have to call him back. I mean, I don't know.
Honestly, you owe Chris Whittingham an apology because you scooped my scoop. Yeah, you totally overshadowed what is a very exciting moment in time for the shipping container.
I don't want to do that again. I've already done that to Billy once with his moment to shine at a Marlins game, first pitch home run. I don't want to do that again. So I did not intend to do that. I do, however, want to talk to you and the audience about a conundrum that I have, because there is a lot to talk about today, Stugotz. I've got a whole bunch of stuff I want to talk about.
Do we have the excuse machine?
Well, Mike Ryan bailed on that a while ago, but thanks for doing what you do and bringing it back there, not helpfully.
wanted to tie the
Yeah,
knot.
but I don't know whether
searched
you were.
excuse machine. I even searched Jack in the Box sound because I thought maybe that's
What
it. So
was it from? It was Stugotz getting the timing wrong on how a Jack in the Box works. And I thought it was the excuse machine. And I want to play something from our nostalgic file because we got this sound from ESPN. But the point I was trying to make, Mike, is there's so much to talk about. I want to talk about Whitty and a really cool thing. I want to talk about Mike Richards. That Jeopardy, he's not going to get the Jeopardy gig. Jeopardy cannot have all of this around its program over a guy who's pretty interchangeable. I want to talk about Larry David and Alan Dershowitz getting into it at Martha's Vineyard, because of course they did. I want to talk about Jack Morris. I want to talk about Ohtani's reaction to Jack Morris, which was so delicate and polite and kind. And culturally, Stugotz, Ohtani and baseball voices from over there are very kind about staying out of the controversies. And so he did nothing to make it worse for Jack Morris. He did not take a stand about how offended he was because Jack Morris, he is allowing him the forgiveness and the compassion of, I am not going to add to this fire by being publicly offended at a time where it gets weirder and weirder that the only way we can talk about Ohtani in the mainstream media is because baseball loves him and baseball knows how great
because
he is.
He's a great player and no one's really talking about that.
It's because all we do is get in trouble trying to talk about the guy from overseas who's a modern day Babe Ruth. Like any other time, Stugotz, this guy, any other time in American history, this person as a player would be the biggest star in America. Able to pitch and hit for power. If that was something that was born and bred in red, white, and blue in this country, we would make baseball matter again around somebody like that.
If Mike Trout could pitch.
Yeah.
Or talk.
Or talk. But in one case, Mike Trout is just boring. And in the other case, we're demanding that the other guy climb over a language barrier, which brings us back to where Stephen A. Smith and how he had to apologize not very long ago about how he was covering Ohtani. But the thing that I wanted to ask you, Mike, because I don't believe we will have many more opportunities like this one. Stugotz and I and Roy are old enough to remember, and so are you, Mike, really. A radio lineup. How you could talk about it for days because of the intimacy of radio and because your audience, you're in the car with them, and your friends who exist in their head. This is a conversation at any other time in the history of our show. The changes at ESPN Radio within the lineup are something that we would talk about. Max Kellerman going from First Take to take a morning job. But as we know, here in the future, radio is close to dying or dead. And so this is the last time. I think people might actually want to hear what we have to say about some of this ESPN stuff, but I also fear that I'm wrong. I think that people might just want to move on. Hey, let's talk about the things of the day. There's plenty interesting out there, but I just don't think we're going to get many more chances to do this because the mediums are changing so fast. And we have, look at what happened to us at ESPN Radio within that lineup with Mike and Stugotz demanding that we go to 10 a.m. because they knew how valuable that spot was. And it's really the last time through Kornheiser and Cowherd. It's the last time that spot has had that value for ESPN Radio. But a whole lot of people listening to this don't care about this at all. Don't care about the history of it. Don't care about Stugotz starting the radio station. Stugotz at the time, ESPN Radio was something that Stugotz got because he needed to be credible. He paid whatever it was to have ESPN's letters on what we were doing because of how credible ESPN made everything.
Also needed to fill time. I mean, I needed to fill time that didn't cost me a lot of money.
Yeah.
But you could have gone a lot of places to get that.
For overnights. Oh, a couple pay cycles you just flatly weren't paying.
Yeah,
that's another story.
That is the truth.
Yeah. There's a lot here, though. We just threw a lot at the audience, and I don't think it does kind of sound like sour grapes anytime you talk about the ESPN radio lineup when you're no longer a part of it.
Well, help me with this part of it then, because man, look how good they were for us. Like, I don't mean to, I just find interesting the history of talk radio, Stugotz, in our market specifically, where Neil Rogers invented the form in that time slot, made that time slot valuable. A show from Miami, weird and racist, and a guy edgier because our rules, FCC rules, were more gentle around here. It was the Wild West. Neil Rogers, wildly inappropriate, wouldn't probably last a couple of weeks today because of all the stuff he was doing. But back then,
he was great. Yeah.
In that time slot, made that time slot matter the way that Rush Limbaugh made that time slot matter, the way in sports radio that time slot mattered. It's the same time slot that First Take has fed on, Stugotz, to make its ratings okay, just better than most at ESPN for that time slot.
What's impressive about Neil is he did it in the middays, as you just explained. He wasn't in morning drive, wasn't in afternoon drive. That's where you want to be. And National has kind of an inverse relationship where you want to be 10-1. That's why Mike and I wanted to be 10-1 so badly, because you get the most amount of clearance in that spot.
That radio time slot and Neil Rogers was so great. And this is all happening now, again, 20 years later, Stugotz, because we've occupied that space for South Florida. We were the heir to those things in South Florida sports radio. Neil Rogers got to do a Miami show from Toronto.
Yes.
Was paid millions of dollars to do it from Toronto, did a solo show from home toward the end of his career. And then the rating measurements came out and they went from diaries to measuring it more accurately. And people realized.
No one cares about this.
Inside baseball.
Yeah, this is so inside.
Well,
it's not even the local hour. Like, we are going deep right now.
Just to finish it quickly, it went from a ratings book to a people meter, and Neil failed miserably.
We went from Stephen A. calling you to Neil Rogers doing a show in Toronto.
And we had Mike's top 5 teams that he hates.
So help me here. If people don't want to hear from this today, I'd want to talk about Whitty. I want to talk about whether or not we're going to be able to celebrate that with
yesterday,
him.
we played the uncomfortable moment of you sounding like a raving lunatic, the show after Freedom, in which you kept saying, I want to talk about it. And literally the only person standing in the way of you talking about it was you. So please, let's talk about Whitty.
Let's call Stephen A on air.
Without telling him?
I'm in.
Your judgment is so bad, Chris.
Why are you that quick with bad judgment? It's a remarkable skill that you have where that's a tight window you just worked in.
Let's go, man.
What would it sound like? Fake John Gruden eating the entire brown banana.
I'll tell you, man. This thing is chewy, man. You barely taste the peel. This is a banana, man.
Spider 2Y banana.
Oh, yeah.
There it was.
Right there for you.
Couldn't have fed me that line.
Well, now while you're talking. All right, we'll close that.
Hey, all. Sorry for the delay. Sorry I'm late. Thanks, Dan.
Joey.
Hello.
Votto.
Is this going to be a video also?
Yes,
Yeah.
Votto.
Awesome.
Votto. But Joey
Let's
Votto.
get it cracking. Let's get it cracking. Thank you all.
Very excited. Let's start here, Joey. You got 2,000 hits. You walk too much. You should be at 3,000 hits. Who do you look at on the 3,000 hits list and say, I'm better than that dude? That dude didn't walk enough.
You're asking me to destroy all-time greats. Wow, that's a good intro. No.
You've got names in your head. I see you going through them and you're like, should I risk it? You can go into the 1800s if you think, or do you think it's too soon?
I'm not
1800s.
I'm not done playing yet. So, if I play long enough, we'll see how far this can go. But there's a lot of great hitters in the 3,000 hit club. Some of my very favorite hitters of all time, but almost all of my favorite hitters aren't in the 3,000 hit club. And the greatest hitters of all time are not in the 3,000 hit club. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Aren't you too young to have a Ted Williams poster on your wall growing up? It seems that doesn't even make any sense to me.
Yeah, I had a coach that was very, very old school, that revered the Rogers Hornsbys and the Babe Ruths and the Ted Williams, and I followed that sort of. I started hunting, and then I understood the appeal and purchased the Science of Hitting, carried it with me everywhere, including my years in the major leagues, and it's been good to me, of course.
Do you have something that you're prouder of that speaks to how disciplined and how good you are as a hitter than going however many years you went without a pop-up in the infield? Like, how many years was that you went without popping up?
The thing I'm most proud of. So a lot of people have asked me, how come you weren't driving in runs and hitting home runs like you're doing right now? And it's because I intentionally switched my style to emulate my very favorite hitters. The Bondses, the Williams, the Ruths, the high, the Gehrigs, the high walks, low strikeouts, lots of power. These were my very favorite players growing up, mostly through Baseball Reference, mostly through, any sort of statistical, any sort of stat page, and that I made that adjustment and copied their style, even though my natural style is to, take hard, aggressive swings, hit the ball hard, strike out some. That's probably the thing that I'm most proud of. Dan, what was the question again?
I was asking about popping up. You went several years.
Yeah, no, that's
in the infield.
now I'm going to pop up some because that's a byproduct of missing home runs, missing balls in the gap. So I did that with the intent on hitting the ball on a line, putting the ball in play, being a tough out. And now there's going to be, I think I've popped up 5 or 6 times so far this year, which is, I'd go 10 years popping up that many times. So
Votto, you're better than Cap Anson. You're better than him, Votto.
You're a better hitter than Cap Anson.
Are we allowed to cuss? Are we allowed to cuss on here?
Yes, go ahead. Let it fly. Take out fucking Cap Anson. Go ahead. Take him out.
Yeah. No. I don't. Cap Anson. Yeah. He's got 3,000 hits, huh?
Yeah. Overrated, though. I say it, Votto. Come on.
All right. Well, his great grandchildren are going to come at you for sure for that.
Do you have a stretch that felt better in your career than 7 homers in 7 games? And you came a couple of feet from doing it 8 straight games, right?
Not power wise. I've had stretches where I've gotten on base what seemed like almost every at bat for stretches, but never power wise like this.
Joey, who is the greatest hitter of all time, according to Joey Votto? Because clearly you've studied this stuff. So who is the greatest hitter of all time, according to Joey Votto?
Babe Ruth. And Ted Williams is 1B. I think that the power was real and he was just so much better than his peers. Whereas Ted had Joe DiMaggio to compete with, and several other great players at the time. Babe Ruth had no comp until Lou Gehrig came along, but Babe Ruth for sure.
He was playing against pitchers who had second jobs as plumbers, and nobody was Dominican.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't playing against anyone that wasn't white. So that's real. And then if we're be the best hitter of all time, maybe it's Mike Trout, because he's playing against the very best in the world right now and still showing off. So I don't know.
You've been around long enough, Joey, that you can speak to how insane it is, the skill level in the sport now, where everyone in the bullpen is throwing 98 miles an hour. None of this was true when you got into the league. Like, you must be marveling at how different the game is than the one you started playing.
I'm in love with the current game. I mean, the superstars we have, and it's kind of off topic, but I've wanted to say this publicly for a while. The young superstars are from a variety of countries. We're representing different parts of the world. It is beautiful, to see the Acuñas and the Tatis Juniors, the Shohei Ohtanis, the Vladimir. These are all, the very, very best in the world. And it's such a treat. We were having a conversation the other day. Who's the best white? And we were like, okay, it's Trout. And then we said, after that, who's the best non-Mike Trout white? And we were like, okay, there's a few of them, but then we started naming off all the other superstars from all over the world, and I just think the sport's in a great place.
Joey, you're the best Canadian, right? Like, don't come at me with Larry Walker. You're better than Larry Walker. You're by far the best Canadian baseball player
Larry Walker
ever,
was
right?
really good too.
No, that's
Joey's
not true.
better.
That's not true. If you ask anybody that played with Larry or played against Larry, the conversation was, is he the best player in the sport? Not named Barry Bonds. And I've never been in that sort of conversation. Larry was a fantastic player, probably underrated. And that you're thinking that, saying that is, lends itself to me believe that I think in general he was underrated. He played in smaller markets, Colorado, but he was Montreal. He was a great player.
What those numbers a little inflated there with the Colorado thing,
with Colorado.
Yeah, just there's an easy solution to challenging someone's numbers. Just check their road statistics, and then that takes care of that. And he was a great hitter on the road also.
Can you give us a couple of guys that you are always thrilled when they get to first base?
Couple of guys. There's lots of guys. I mean, I've had funny exchanges with Freddie Freeman and Giancarlo Stanton, Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols. He gets to first and he's giving me hitting tips. It was my second or third year, he's telling me do this or do that, and I make the adjustment, and then I snatch a most valuable player away from him. You know, there's lots of great guys for sure.
What's the closest you've ever been to leaving Cincinnati?
Oh no, never.
It's not. It's never even been a consideration. That's where you've wanted to be. There's never been a moment where you've thought to yourself, "I'd like to be traded," because you've been so excellent there for such a long time, and the team has not. I mean, I don't know what the best team is that's been there while you've been there, but you've been surrounded by a whole lot of not as excellent as you.
Yeah, I've just enjoyed I've enjoyed myself here. I've made a long commitment to the team, which included a no trade clause. We've never once had conversations about going elsewhere. You know, we had a rough stretch, and to be honest with you, I didn't think anything about switching teams. And now here I am, closer to the end of my career with a really strong club. I truly, you know, I think when you're a younger player, you have moments where you're like, oh, it'd be cool to play here and cool to play there. And then all of a sudden you talk to guys and they play in those particular markets and they give you the feedback that you got it good here. Don't try to leave or don't get bent out of shape over a rough stretch. It is ugly here. It's different here. Stay where you are. You got a great thing. And so, you know, accumulating that feedback from a variety of players reminds me of how special it is here. And I get to first base players get to first base and they say, man, it's really nice here. It's a really great place to play. And for me, it's the perfect place to, do my job without distraction. You know, I think if I was in a larger market, I would probably be distracted. And this is a perfect place for me to work.
Who wants nothing to do with you when they get to first base?
Who wants nothing to do with me?
Yeah.
I think Sean Casey told us Milton Brad. I think he predates
Milton Bradley.
I think Sean Casey told us I think he got his first hit and he went over there and he just wouldn't talk to Sean Casey, the world's nicest man. In fact, as far as Cincinnati Reds first basemen go and being nice, you finish a very distant second, even though you two are a nice man.
That's fine. Okay, let me say this. So Wilson Contreras plays for the Cubs. And he's very focused when he plays. And I love his swing, his style of play. I love how intense he is. He's very competitive, but he gets to first base and he doesn't want to talk to me. And there are occasions where I'm like, hey, what's up? And he gives me a little nod. And of late, I've had to compliment him because I've got 3 younger brothers. I'm jealous that he has a brother in the major leagues and how much I'd love to have one of my brothers to work with. And of late, I've kind of been massaging him a little bit with the brother compliments just to see if, we can become a little bit friendlier. And he gives in a little bit, but generally he's so focused on work. And we play against them so often that, if he doesn't want to talk, he doesn't want to talk.
Is there anybody or anything that you look at, whether it's a son of a major leaguer you played with or in your own clubhouse, that makes you feel pretty regularly old?
Yeah, I just faced Ryan Weathers, the son of David Weathers. I'll tell you a story. He used to spend nearly every day in the clubhouse when Dusty Baker was managing. We'd have plenty of kids in the clubhouse. It was the best. It was like this communal thing that all the dads in the clubhouse, all the players took care of all the kids. Kids would come to the park, play tag with one another, hit in the cage, play catch, on occasion go in the outfield, shag balls. Then they get done, have a meal with their dad, have, a slushie or whatever, and then throw their uni on and, watch the game. And Ryan used to hit off his father in the outfield, come in, have a slushie and a burger or something like that, and then throw some shorts on and wet the shower area down with soap, and then, slip and slide through there. And now I'm facing him in the major leagues. He's making outs. I'm getting outs against him. It's crazy how things have come full circle. I mean, I watched Griffey Jr. obviously played with him. And he kind of gave me that same feedback. Once you start seeing kids of players play against you, you're old. So
do any of them call you Mr. Votto?
I'm getting some sirs at first base, and I'm telling I'm probably gonna, hey, young cat, young player, I'm gonna play longer than you. Don't sir me. I'll be in the league longer than you will. So don't sir me.
Stugotz, I don't know if you saw this story, but one of the coolest Votto stories I've seen, and there are a few, and I don't know if you want to repeat it for Stugotz if he hasn't seen it, but just how honored you were to wear the shirt, and forgive my ignorance, of the clubhouse guys, because you made your way. You had to do a day, right, of remedial sort of clubhouse clubby work, and you found it to be an honor.
Yeah, so the rule is if you get 10 years of time in a Reds uniform, you get this clubhouse shirt, has your name on it. Only the clubhouse staff wear it. And the rule is every Sunday they all wear it and you have to wear it. So on Sundays, this coming Sunday, I wear the shirt. I come into the clubhouse, play the game, and then the second I'm showered and dressed, I have to put the shirt on and go scrub shoes, put some laundry back just for a second or two. And then we kind of like, if the team wins, that was a good win by the boys today. Or if the team loses, man, the boys got to pick it up today. Just to join their group. And I love it. I love it. It's probably the best gift I've received as a Cincinnati Red. That includes my 10-year contract. I mean, that's my favorite gift.
When's the last time, or how often, does Joey Votto weep on a baseball field, either from pain or gratitude?
Weep? I've never cried on the field. I've never cried on the field. I don't believe. Yesterday, funny enough, I was doing an interview with a radio group in Toronto, and they were asking me about my relationship with my father. I actually started to well up a little bit during that conversation, but no, not on the ball field. I don't think so. Funny story. So I played with Jay Bruce, who's now retired, played for the Yankees and several other teams. And we used to have this thing where if you fouled a ball off your shin, got hit by a pitch, got hurt in any way, shape, or form, you didn't say anything, you went to first base, it was a point of pride, no reaction, don't give the opposition any sort of satisfaction, don't let on that you need to come out of the game. And so I fouled a ball off my shin and it hurt really badly. And not 2 days later, I fouled the ball off my shin again off that very same spot, and I couldn't breathe. I was going to throw up. I'm in the box, and I'm very, very angry. I'm in a lot of pain, and I look in the dugout, and he says, "Am I allowed to curse on here? How is this?"
Yes.
work?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yep. Let it fly.
He said, in a roundabout way, "Don't be a wimp." But eye contact where I'm in the batter's box competing against a pitcher and he's on the bench saying, "Don't be a," and I look at him and I say, in the middle, I curse at him. And that was the sort of relationship I had with him. But I was very nearly not crying out of sadness, but just like I was so overwhelmed with pain at the time. But other than that, no.
Joey, give us a random pitcher that you simply can't. Baseball's so weird in this way, so I love asking guys this. Give us a random pitcher you simply cannot hit.
Simply cannot hit. Brett Anderson of the Brewers. I tell you what, we're going to play them soon, so it's probably not a good idea to share this, but he just keeps, it doesn't matter what he fires in there, I make outs, and I feel good against him. I feel confident against him, but it's getting to the point now where our manager Dave Bell is. I would guess he's probably going to time a day off for when we match up against them, just because I can't seem to get him. Brett Anderson of the Milwaukee Brewers, and it's been like that I think my entire career.
According to Joey Votto, one of the greatest hitters we've seen, the nastiest pitch that you have seen comes from the arm of whom? What is it? Is it a fastball? Is it a different pitch? What is the single nastiest thing that you've seen?
Well, Carlos Marmol had one of the toughest sliders I've ever seen. He was a former Cubs player, but the nastiest pitch was CC Sabathia, his slider. I felt like facing him, he was such a big man. He'd start this slider basically behind your back and it would finish for a ball on occasion in the other batter's box. And then he'd hit you and then stare at you. You know, it was like you're looking for a slider that might start behind your back, but it ends up being a fastball at your neck, you know? So that CC's most definitely got the toughest pitch in my opinion.
We got to let you go. It's been a pleasure watching your work for a long time, your excellence for a long time. If you had anything to go tell 22-year-old Joey Votto right now, what kind of advice would you give him after the last 15 years?
You know, I was really lucky to have a great hitting coach as a young professional, and everything he taught me at 18, at 19, at 20 is the exact same sort of stuff I need to be doing now. So trust the people that have been good to you, and I've had good people in my corner. So yeah.
Top 3 strangest places where Joey Votto will do the imaginary batting stance with no bat in his hands.
In the hotel room with my pajamas on, in the hotel bathroom, naked, and standing on top of the bed in the hotel room, thinking about tomorrow's at bats.
Joey, thank you for being on with us. Good catching up with you.
All right, thank you all.
174 against Anderson, Votto.
Why are you heckling him? Why are you haunting him? What are you doing?
But I did it as he was walking away. It was perfect.
One of the yearly favorites categories in the Suey Stugotz is dismissals, favorite dismissals from the year. Historically, has anyone ever won dismissals other than Stugotz? Doesn't Stugotz have the biggest echoing dismissals throughout the history of the Sueys?
I love to dismiss people, but I believe someone won it recently, someone other than me. I think I had like 5 straight years, and then someone else won it maybe a year or two ago.
You're the GOAT, though. For sure.
Well, thank you.
We will get to that category in a second, but there were a couple of things that happened, Stugotz, in sports that were interesting. Durant and Draymond sitting down after the Olympics. They're clearly closer than whatever it is that broke them and a champion apart, because we would not be talking about Giannis or Kawhi or any of these people this way if that relationship had stayed together and healthy.
It appeared to me that they got closer through playing on the Olympic team together, because it seemed like Draymond was asking him questions to clear stuff up, not just for the audience, but for himself.
It was a great conversation to listen to, because it was Draymond and Kevin Durant sitting together, and don't give a bleep, 2 guys who are now protecting their own brands, right? At the end of player empowerment, these 2 guys can sit down and they don't need to filter it through any media outlets. They don't need to sit down separately and give ESPN the ratings. They can sit down themselves and just talk about it. And you get this honesty where they're both saying, yeah, Bob Myers and Steve Kerr bleeped it all up.
Okay, right.
Our management team, light years ahead of everyone else, they bleeped it all up. If they had just gotten us into a room and not tried to tell Draymond what to say and just sat us down and confronted it head on instead of doing this ego dance, we would have been able to sort it out ourselves, because we don't have the same feelings as these guys. Now, that's revisionist history, possibly.
Yeah, it's also mighty convenient, and no one's there to check them. I'm sure you'd get a different story from them. Yeah, no. We didn't need our egos protected. Why did we need our egos protected several years after the fact, when in it you could have easily done this and you didn't? No, it's BS what they're doing. And it's part of the problems with athletes becoming these enterprises and these media entities, is because they feel like their truth is the truth and no one's there to check them. And they don't actually have to be checked, because they've earned that by pouring their money into their own media empire. So that's just where we're at.
It's a fascinating evolution, though. What's that going to look like in 15 years? Because you've got, Mike, you say that, but Jeter's going to be allowed to control how he tells this last story in 9 parts. Tom Brady signing up with Apple is going to be able to control how that story gets told. And the more interesting documentaries are the ones that are not edited by these guys.
I'm okay with those guys controlling those stories, their stories, the stories of their career. But Mike is right about the Draymond KD. First off, if KD wanted to stay, no one messed it up. KD messed it up. They messed it up.
Let's talk about the evolution of the game, though, Stugotz, because the Jeter documentary that's unauthorized is so much more interesting than the Jeter documentary that is authorized.
Agreed.
You do the authorized because they still have Final Cut on it. You'll get access to maybe footage that you wouldn't before, but even an unauthorized one on Jeter, is that interesting to you?
Mike, the Tiger Woods documentary on HBO done by Armin Katayan that had no access to Tiger Woods is the most revealing portrait I have ever seen of an athlete I thought I knew. Tiger Woods had no jurisdiction over the telling of that story. Reported well around these guard gates that all these guys are putting because they have their own production houses and their own power. The most honest version of the story is the most interesting version of the story.
It was fantastic. I finally got around to watching it. You were right. It was great, but I'll still watch Tiger's version of Tiger's career. I will. I'll still watch it, Dan. I'll still watch it with him having final say.
And remember what Tiger did before that thing even dropped. He had a spokesperson come out and refute a lot of the things that were in that documentary, said it's not at all a proper picture. And that's what Katie and Durant are doing right now. Look, I'm not this plugged in source. I wasn't at Warriors practice, but I talked to plenty of people that were. And while it was happening, they were doing interviews. They're not liars to do it several years after and essentially call all those people reporting liars and to put it on other people when they're not going to talk. Bob Myers and Steve Kerr, they're not going to come out and refute it. They know this game. So it's just awfully convenient from those guys.
Stugotz, it's such an interesting evolution of the content age. You listening to this right now are going to have to be discerning about where and how you get your shit, because you will get partial truths. And then Matt Sullivan is coming on here and saying, hey, this Nets book I wrote, it's the most honest thing you're going to actually see in journalism because it's not contaminated by either side. ESPN, the business partner, ESPN, or the boardroom where KD is making his own production house with ESPN Plus as Peyton Manning and Cooper Manning and everybody heads to the ESPN Plus streaming age. You're going to have to be discerning about who's actually telling you the truth.
WWE is producing a series, Vince McMahon versus the United States of America. I don't want to hear his side of the story. I want someone to pick that apart and tell me what Vince McMahon was doing and the whole steroid scandal. I don't want Vince McMahon in charge of his own narrative.
Don't you think most people will go, like, Dan, you'll be entertained by Tiger's version of Tiger's event of his career, but most people are going to go with a journalist, right? Like, they still trust journalism.
No, Stugotz, have you not been paying attention the last 5 years in this country?
Dan,
journalism.
Dan,
they trusted Trump more than they trusted journalism.
Certain people within journalism. Dan, if you tell me what happened in Golden State, or Ethan Strauss tells me what happens in Golden State, I'm smart enough to realize
that is becoming less and less valuable as people choose their own news sources. Zuckerberg is rich because of how he has done this irresponsibly. No, man, where you been, Stugotz? Honestly, like, where have you been on journalism and what happened to it in this country specifically over the last 5 years?
But Dan, you're not giving yourself enough credit for being credible. You're just, or Ethan Strauss. Like, I'm telling you, if I'm able to sift through it, don't you think a lot of people?
Who cares?
Me of all people.
You're valuing something that doesn't seem to have a whole lot of value anymore. As everyone chooses their own news sources. But we will get to dismissals in a second. The thing that I wanted to talk to you about, though, as we talk about the mythologizing around these athletes and them controlling their own story, Mike Bianchi does not see what just happened with Tim Tebow as a failure. Mike Bianchi, columnist of the Orlando Sentinel, says that Tim Tebow should now line himself up to become President of the United States. President of the United States, Tim Tebow, buzz cut, actor, athlete of our time, failing his way up through the system, clinging to the mythology as he rises up above all of us. Can't block as a tight end anymore. And if you fail at that job in Jacksonville, the next job for you, Connor Roy, is President of the United States.
I think he can be. He was born in the Philippines.
Time now for greatest dismissal.
And now the Suey nominees for Best Dismissal. Mike Ryan dismisses 76ers fans.
How the hell do Sixers fans show their f***ing faces? All right? Where do you get off thinking that this is a place for you to start piping up? because you're a couple of games over 500 in the Eastern Conference after the embarrassment of last season, after all that shit you talked about Jimmy Butler. Last I checked, Philadelphia, the Miami Heat were reigning, defending Eastern Conference champions. You can never say another word. I don't give a shit if you hold up Larry O'Brien this year. That debate, you lost. All right, so shut your mouths.
Dan Le Batard dismisses the Packers organization for mistreating his beloved Aaron Rodgers.
I'm better than Favre. I've been better than Favre the entirety of our careers. However you love Favre, Grandpa Favre, like I am top of the food chain, greatest you've ever seen, and I just showed it to you last goddamn season, and you took the ball out of my hands in fourth down at the end of the season, and you want me to keep coming back to this bullshit as LeBron James runs his sport. Like, you.
Stugotz dismisses Trevor Lawrence for not caring enough about football.
I don't want to hear a quarterback who's coming out of Clemson, who is the most highly rated projected quarterback in the history of the NFL draft. I don't want him to say two things. One, he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder, and he's not going to manufacture one. You better find that chip and put it right on your shoulder. And number two is he's not that interested in winning Super Bowls. What are you interested in doing? What's the point of playing the game? What's the point of going through those voluntary workouts, the sweat, the tears, the teamwork, the locker room, being there for your team? If you don't want to win a Super Bowl, I don't want you as my quarterback. And if you can't find the chip, I definitely don't want you as my quarterback. Please, Trevor Lawrence.
Kenny Mayne dismisses giving his first interview to a podcast.
Is it Tuesday?
Yeah.
Is this going to run on Tuesday? It better. Why would you not interview me and then not run it on the same day? That's stupid.
Yeah. Nonsensical. You're right.
Why are you leaving?
Why am I even doing this interview? I should be like on a live program. What the You tricked me. You, Dan Le Batard.
Ryan Cortez, Mike Ryan, and Dan Le Batard dismiss Chris Cody for saying the Bucks are better this season.
You think I'm afraid of the Bucks?
They're better than they were last year. Are the Heat better than they were last year?
The Bucks are not better than they were last year.
Have you been watching the NBA this year?
They're worse.
They're not winning as much. They don't have the same point differential. They were having one of the best regular seasons ever last year until they weren't.
Michael Irvin dismisses the idea that offensive tackle is a harder position to play than wide receiver.
Offensive tackle, man, the hardest play. I said, please, man, your job, you're a fat 300-pounder. You got to stay. All you have to do is stay in front of another fat 300-pounder for 3 seconds. For 3 seconds. One fat 300, other fat 300, stay in front of for 3 seconds. Mean. I got to go out here. I got to fight a dude to come off the line of scrimmage just to get into my route, go run a route, fake another dude out, go turn, catch a ball that's being projected down the field fast, flying somewhere between heaven and earth, snatch it out the air, mid-air, come down, put my feet on the ground, all while somebody trying to take my head off, and I don't get a cheer until I get in the end zone. I'm like, please, come on, man, let's be real.
Amin El-Hassan dismisses the Broadway play Hamilton.
That shit is so terrible.
What, Hamilton?
Hamilton.
Oh, you take that.
I will fight you, Amin.
It's awful.
No.
Wow, you're terrible.
No.
You're terrible. You're awful.
No.
Awful.
Chris Whittingham dismisses Giannis Antetokounmpo as a #1 option.
It's kind of turned out in these playoffs, Giannis is probably the NBA's best number 2. Because I think it's kind of been determined that he can't be your one. And like in terms of his specific skill set and the areas of the game in which he struggles, you can't rely upon him to get baskets at the end.
Amin El-Hassan dismisses people for feeling bad for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
I'm listening to these stories and everyone's saying, oh my God, it's so awful what they put it through. And I said, wait a second, mixed race couple has racist white in-laws? I've never heard of that ever happening in the history. How could she find her way through such a unique struggle? My favorite part was Tyler Perry offered his house while they got back on their feet. Were they in a cardboard box or something?
Financial independence.
What are we talking about here? Like the amount of sorry people feel for them. I feel so Stugotzian right now, but it's just like, get over yourself. Give me a break.
Mike Ryan dismisses North Carolina fans.
North Carolina's entering this FSU territory because they do that shit I'm telling you, you want to set me off?
That's sad.
You put that U upside down, and I'll be like 60 years old, and I'll just
That's
be
so
like,
sad.
you! Who do you think you are? That's so disrespectful. It sets me the hell
You're moving
off.
backwards by starting to have a rivalry with North Carolina.
But you don't know any North Carolina fans, though.
I hate them more than I hate Virginia Tech now. I swear to God.
Wow.
Oh, when they do that thing, guys, they're like coaching them up on it. It's ridiculous. Who raised you? Honestly, like I'm watching these kids do it. I'm like, where are your parents? That's what I scream at my TV. Is there an adult in the room? Can some coach in there pull this kid aside and say, we don't do that here at Chapel Hill? Because it is so disrespectful. Just sets me off.
Rosie Perez dismisses caring about winning a Golden Globe.
Do you get upset because your show doesn't win?
No, I don't give two poo-poos about that. I really don't.
Stugotz dismisses Bucks Twitter for celebrating going up 2-0 versus the Heat.
How about you win your first round against an inferior team and move on and shut up? You haven't won a title yet. You haven't made it to the NBA Finals. The Heat did last year. They did it by beating you. Do me a favor. Just shut up until you get there and win it.
Coming
okay?
from the guy whose streets were flooded by the Knicks winning game one.
I mean, I felt like I won a championship that day.
Just shut up and act like
Larry
you won
O'Brien.
something.
Stugotz dismisses Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, please. All this guy has done since he's been
Stugotz
traded
is
to
in
from the
trouble in
Jets
this
to the Carolina
category.
Panthers is celebrate his new home. Celebrations. Walks into his new house, celebration. Walks into his new facility, celebration. Sees his new, head coach, who's a quarterback whisperer, who's so good at it. He did such a bad job with Teddy Bridgewater. Celebration. Okay? That's all you. What are you celebrating, Sam Darnold? That you're so bad the Jets don't even want you to be their quarterback? That's what you're celebrating? That you're so bad they trade you for a second and fourth round pick? And I know what people are saying. Well, now he has Christian McCaffrey. Now he has Robbie Anderson. He had Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson was dreadful when he was a Jet. He went to Carolina where Sam Darnold was not and became a Pro Bowl wide receiver.
Stugotz.
Sam Darnold,
Stugotz,
please.
listen to the goddamn music, Stugotz.
I'm rolling.
Amin El Hassan dismisses the Bucks during the NBA Finals.
I'm beginning to question everything I've thought about the Milwaukee Bucks. The level of basketball that they've done, dare I say it, this is one of the worst teams in finals history. To be honest with you, Dan, I have zero confidence that the Bucks can win a game.
Really?
A game.
God.
What in their history gives us the confidence that they'll make adjustments? They don't do that. They don't do that. And the Suns are outplaying them in every facet of the game. Their role players are so bought in and invested and crisp at running their stuff. And meanwhile, the Milwaukee Bucks are looking around like, we'll get into it when we get into it. I mean, even Bud's post-game comments, I don't know if you guys heard it. He was like, yeah, I'm confident those guys are going to get going. When? You got 2 games left.
When they go home.
Why?
Stugotz dismisses Mark Cuban and Luka Doncic.
The Mavericks, please. I mean, seriously. Mark Cuban, no one was behind the play-in playoff format more so than Mark Cuban was a year ago. Really pushed for it, and it's a great idea. But now that the Mavericks, are sitting in the 7th seed, and they have no business being in the 7th seed, it looks like they're going to have to play in one of these play-in games to get into the playoffs. And now Mark Cuban and Luka Doncic, these guys are railing against the play-in playoff format. Please. You pushed for it last year, and now you're complaining about it because Luka comes in 45 pounds overweight. You're losing regular season games to the Sacramento Kings without Rashawn Holmes, by the way, a very good player. You're losing those games. He's on my fantasy team, Mike. Don't worry about it.
Is this just a show you want to do then? Is this when you ask for the please buffet?
I'm so tired of Mark Cuban. He's pushing.
Careful. He's coming on next month, maybe.
Listen, I am so tired of Luka Doncic, who is complaining.
It's Doncic.
I don't care. Beluga Whale about this play-in format. Listen, you're talented. Your team is talented.
Please. All right,
you should be higher than the 7th seed. You should be a top 3 seed in the West. You're not. So you have to play in this play-in format that your owner loves so much. Deal with it and stop complaining about it. You're the ones that push for it. I'm tired of it.
That's not the name of the segment.
Please. It's not I'm tired of it. Did you forget the name of the segment? What are you ending it with? I'm tired of it. Is the name of the segment, please? Is it I'm tired of it buffet? Is it a listen
that's
buffet?
how buffets work, Dan. That's how they work. Sometimes you go, you think you want one thing, and then you finish eating something else at the end of the meal.
Stugotz dismisses Zion Williamson, calling him a bust.
I'm pretty certain LeBron James, his second year, made the playoffs on a team that's way worse than this team, okay? Like, LeBron didn't have Brendan Ingram. He didn't have Lonzo Ball. He didn't have any of the guys that Zion has. When you come out of college and there's that much hype around you, and there was with Zion, and your team doesn't make the playoffs, bust.
The music is going to hurt Stugotz. It's going to hurt the strength of the Stugotz conference that the music is so weirdly ragtimey for no reason.
And Amin's take was so off. I mean, that's my vote. He's got my vote. I mean, really,
Zion
that's my
bust,
vote.
though. That's gonna be tough to beat.
I think the Bucks comeback win in the finals is going to snatch this crown from Stugotz. Question is, which of the terrible Bucks takes and dismissals wins, or do they cannibalize each other and Stugotz can eke one out?
The title was snatched a year ago, of course, to Michael Doliak.
Oh, that's right. Forgot. Tomorrow.
A legendary dismissal, a worthy champion, but that's what it usually takes to knock Stugotz off of the victory on the dismissal. I love Stugotz. Who was the Rashad you were talking about? Because you are becoming
Rashawn.
Because you are becoming more and more of Mike Mad Dog Russo. What was the Rashawn?
It's Christopher Mad Dog Russo.
I'm
That's
sorry.
My
bad. Yes.
It's Mike Francesa, double fine.
Two mistakes by
the
me.
Pope, I mean.
Explain to me what happened there in the middle of that, in the middle of the Mavs take, where you just decided to flex your Rashawn muscle.
I have him on my fantasy team, and I needed to point that out because it seemed odd in the middle of that I would throw heat praise on the Rashawn Holmes of the Sacramento Kings, who were 22 games under 500 when I did so. But he had a monster fantasy season for me. Gave me like a block and a half a game. I needed it badly.
Was it you or was it Inferno who landed you that? Like, how are you doing in all of your fantasy leagues?
I'm winning, not because of anything I'm doing, because I hired hired a guy. His name's Inferno, and since I've hired him, we've won 8 out of the last 10 years with me doing nothing. It's great. He finds Rashawn Holmes.
Go ahead and play Doliak dismissing us, a worthy champion. Michael, thank you. We'll do it again with you tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow?
What other Sueys do we have remaining today, Mike?
Mispronunciation, Dan. That's a very heavy Stugotz conference.
Is it
sure
filled
to take that one?
Is it filled with Meech-worthy category mispronunciations?
That's all the Stump the Meeches are pulled from this category.
All right, let's do that next. Later in life, here's Stugotz, and Jay Glazer has been this for a long time. You think of the loud, oafish guy fighting the robot on Fox and friends with all the players, but he's been doing some really cool work with our military. And on behalf of MVP, Merging Vets and Players, he's co-founded this with Nate Boyer. And if you know Nate's story, and we want to give you this information, vetsandplayers.org is where you go. Nate Boyer is the reason Kaepernick wasn't sitting during the anthem. He explained to Kaepernick that kneeling is always a sign of respect, whether you're being knighted, whether you're proposing to somebody. Usually nobody associates disrespect with kneeling. And so Nate gave him that advice. I believe, Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, and thank you for joining us, that you wrote something, right? And then Colin Kaepernick reached out to you because you wrote something saying that you thought it was disrespectful, and then he sought you out?
Yeah, I didn't really say it was disrespectful. I wrote an open letter when he started sitting on the bench, back in 2016 during the anthem. And I just wrote an open letter sort of explaining my feelings and my relationship to the flag, the anthem, stuff like that because of my time in the military. And I had a lot of the people that I served with that, felt a certain way about it. And I also wanted to understand more and hear more. I think, anymore with a lot of mainstream media, it's tough to like cipher through and figure out what's actually going on. And I was reading a lot of headlines and hearing sound bites. And so when it came to what he was actually, quote unquote, standing up for or sitting for at that time, I couldn't fully understand myself because, it was just hard to figure out what was really coming from him. And also partly, I think it was just for myself and a lot of people, to just get that out in the air and like have more conversations and listen more. And if it's something that we're not fully aware of, I don't know. It's about communication more than anything. And so I wrote that letter and he ended up reaching out and we ended up getting together and talking through the situation and why he was doing what he's doing. And at the end of our conversation, he asked if there was another way I thought he could protest that would not offend people in the military. I said no, because there's nothing, you can do that's not going to offend some people. But we sort of just found this common ground and came to this place where we both thought kneeling was maybe a better option. I kind of threw it out there. I thought being alongside his teammates was the most important thing. He agreed it was a better form of protest. And so that night he took a knee for the first time, and that's where the kneeling started.
For those of you who do not know, he is an Army Green Beret. He has served multiple tours, Iraq and Afghanistan. I want to ask him about those things as well. But I just want your perspective on, you give this advice and then you think what is going to happen after that. You give that advice and you are how mortified by what's happened to his career since then.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it was surprising just because putting yourself out like that, I think, in any regard these days, especially in the public eye, like the amount of scrutiny that's going to come with that, especially with social media, it's just one of those things. But he felt compelled. He felt strong about something. He felt that what he was eventually kneeling for was far more important, I think, than his career. But I don't think he expected that to just be the end all, and for him to feel like he'd never have another opportunity. So that, that's a tough thing. I will say through all this, maybe that message has amplified more and more because he never played again. I don't know. But I think he should be, proud of how it's expanded. I mean, you look at sports across the world now, and what that message stands for. And then through, a really tough year, 2020, and, and George Floyd and obviously COVID and all this stuff, how it seemed to be at least a lot more people that had somehow never even heard this thing or fully understood why he was protesting, that listened and, maybe changed their tune. Maybe a lot of that was BS, but I'd like to hope that at least some of that was genuine and a lot, and that there is going to be a continued change and progress made. So at the end of the day, like I wouldn't do anything different, and I hope he'd at least somewhat feel the same way.
But if I came to you in that moment, you've given this advice, okay, it's going to happen this way, Nate, and I said, worst case scenario, what's going to happen here? You would have said what?
I don't know what I would have said. Worst case? I mean, okay. That's a tough one.
Okay, yes, there could be. Yes, worst case, I suppose there could be an assassination to make him an actual martyr. I didn't mean to head there. I'm just saying, did you think it would result in what it's become, which is, to me, the worst plausible case, which is that the NFL somehow blackballed him after you asked him to do something respectful, and he did after he sought you out.
I don't know. I do believe there's just a lot of nuance with that. And, I mean, maybe this is a cop out, but I try to put myself in other people's shoes and other people's perspectives. When I thought about this through the years of like, if I was in the front office somewhere, that fear of, I mean, it's a business, and that fear of like, oh, am I going to divide my locker room? Am I going to divide my fan base? Like, is this going to be a lightning rod, a backup, if he's a backup quarterback at that time, I mean, obviously at his peak, not long before this ended, he was one of the top 10, one of the top 5 probably at some point. So I see that. But also like, I think I somewhat understand that hesitance. And, there were teams that reached out and brought him in, and it was just like, but it wasn't going to be the same contract. It wasn't going to be the same position. It's like, I can't imagine him ever being a backup quarterback. I just couldn't see that. I mean, I was a huge 49er fan first and foremost, and he was incredible, especially in 2012, 2013. And then I don't know, like once that all started, like to be a signal caller and waiting in the wings, like I just couldn't see that from his standpoint either. So I wasn't super surprised that he never played again. Did I think it was like right? No, but I just, after all that happened, I don't know. I wasn't shocked.
As Dan mentioned earlier, you were a former Green Beret in the Army, multiple tours, Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I'm wondering, Nate, what has bothered you as you've watched the coverage of everything that has happened here and unfolded in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's heartbreaking to see more than anything, just the people, the Afghan people. And I mean, when you saw, if anybody here saw that, probably the video of the Air Force jet trying to take off, the plane trying to take off. And yeah, there's 800 people inside, but there's hundreds, if not thousands more outside trying to get on and get out of there. And, you get a lot of mixed messaging, of course, not only back in the States, but even when you're deployed. And there's plenty of people that were over there that thought from the jump that, we should never be here. They don't want us here. But that's also with a lot of nuance, because there's certainly a lot of people that did and appreciated us. I mean, driving through in these big Humvees, which I'm sure is very daunting to a lot of people. I remember getting far more, thumbs up from kids than people throwing rocks or something like that. So I know there was at least a lot of people that appreciated that. I know without a doubt, the men that we fought alongside, the Afghan military, that were so appreciative of what we were trying to help build. At the end of the day, though, like it's not an easy task. It's not an easy mission, and they don't have the resources we have here. They don't have what we have. And we also live in a country where we know as American troops, like if we don't make it back, we're going to be honored. We're going to be appreciated. Our families are going to get taken care of, and they don't have that luxury. So it's like that breaks my heart more than anything, just to see those people and how rough that's going to be for them for the rest of their lives. I mean, I don't know. I still have a hope, and I pray for those people, and I got to believe that there's another way, and this is not over for those that don't want to live under Taliban rule. But I don't know, and that's what's really frustrating. I mean, beyond the 20 years that a lot of people from this country poured into, and they lost brothers and sisters as well. Beyond all that, I just think of the people there first and foremost.
Do you question the worth of that war?
I don't question what I did. I don't question any of that, and that's all I can really say. I mean, oppression is oppression, no matter where it is. There's oppression in the United States. There's oppression in Afghanistan. There's oppression all over the world. And if there's not people doing what they can to fight that and try to change things, then I don't know what there is. And I won't question that. I won't question the idea that what we were trying to do there, boots on the ground level, was the right thing, and trying to be there for them when it comes to to government and politics and the other places. Like I don't know. I don't know. I can't speak for that. And that's certainly going to be a mixed bag no matter who you talk to. But, we've got people that volunteered and did something because they thought it was the right thing to do and poured their heart and soul into it, to ultimately fight for those that can't fight for themselves. And I don't question that. I never will.
Do you question what Pat Tillman gave his life for?
No, I don't. Because I mean, he gave his life for ideals and for people, for a hope of a better life. And it's hard to say who knows what a better life is, and who knows what's best for anybody else and for another place. But yeah, I think now Pat was one of my heroes. That's one of the reasons I joined. I actually didn't join until after he had passed, and growing up, I wanted to be a football player first. I wanted to be a pro athlete. And so, those were my heroes. And I never even considered the military until after 9/11. And then when that happened to Pat, it was even like another thing that was just like, man, this person was willing to give up, everything to go try and help people and just try and be a good person. And, the more you learn about him and his legacy and like who he was, even way back when he was, in high school, college, like he was just a person that was not okay with injustice, and he just wanted to help people and fight for people. And that's inspiring. It's tragic the way that he passed. And, but I don't question that because of what he was trying to do, I think, as an individual.
What are you allowed to say about the reported details on the way that he died? What's the nuance we'd be missing there? You are a good soldier. You fight for patriotism. You are actually much braver than us. You are out there fighting for something. But for someone like me who's not a soldier and looks at that and is just mortified by what he died for because we covered it up in friendly fire, what am I not understanding because I'm not a soldier?
That, it's war is a very ugly thing. It's a very complicated thing, and terrible things happen. That doesn't justify covering anything up like that. Like I was never on board for that. And I didn't even know until later when other people found, I didn't know about that. And, when I found out what had actually happened, that was even more heartbreaking, not because of how it happened, but because, there was not told, the truth wasn't told. And, and that's awful. But just going back to like, only being able to control what we can control just in life generally, there's only so much we can do. There's so many things that are out of our hands. And I think of it, in this comparison to sports, I guess, how many people poured their lives into, trying to make it to the Olympics or try to make it to, the NBA or trying to win a championship or whatever. And they gave everything they had and they never made it to that place. They ultimately failed, but they gave it all and they poured their life into it, and it probably made them a better person. And maybe they lost their life in the process, not just in sports and anything, but like, does that mean that it was all for nothing? I don't know. I don't think so. That doesn't feel like the best way to look at it. So I do want to put out there for any person that was a part of the last 20 years in Afghanistan, to understand there's people out there, a lot of people out there like you, feeling like you feel you're not alone. But also like, I don't want you to feel like your life was for nothing. Your life's work was for nothing because, you were trying to help people. You were trying to make the world a better place. And that's all you can do. That's all you can control.
You've got to get out of here because you've got a flight merging vets and players. It's a worthy cause, vetsandplayers.org. He's doing it with Jay Glazer. Before we get you out of here, just last thing real quick. Green Beret training. The worst of it was what? The worst to become a Green Beret in your training, what you would say to us the most arduous thing was?
Just the grind, to be honest. You're not sleeping, you're not eating for long periods of time when you're out in the field training, going through SEER school, which stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape, essentially a mock POW camp. It's very, very hard. And it's funny, you take a lineup of guys that sign up, and if you pick the ones that you'd pick with your eyes are never the ones that ultimately make it through. It's just because you never know what somebody's made of inside. And we come from all shapes and sizes and backgrounds and, lack of experience. The ones that ultimately make it through, it's just they want it more than anybody else. And they're not willing to quit, I should say.
Vetsandplayers.org. You got to get out of here. If you want to tell us anything before you do on this, vetsandplayers.org.
Hey, just good to be good to one another. That's the best way to honor those that didn't make it back from Afghanistan, or honor those people in your life that you've lost, is just not only remembering them in a positive way, but the way that you live your life, living that positive life and being there for one another. That's it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Nate. Noel, I'd like to talk to you again when we have a little bit more room because your subject matter, you're being such a good soldier and you're saying at every turn, I don't know, because you're really stuck in a place between saying things publicly that might feel unpatriotic when we just got out of a war that was pretty much a historic American disaster. But you're a good soldier. And so I'd like to talk to you more deeply about this stuff when we have more time.
Absolutely, brother. I'm down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nate.